The music was loud, the lights were dim, and the whole place buzzed with the kind of energy people pretend they thrive on. We were at one of those trendy spots Malia liked, velvet banquettes, plates that looked more like art projects than meals, and servers who called everyone babe. It wasn't my kind of place, never had been. But she loved it, and I showed up. That was always my role. Showing up, quiet, present, supportive, the background husband. That's how she liked me. Not that she ever said it directly, but it was written between every dismissive smile and every hand wave when I tried to speak up around her friends. Malia sat across from me, glowing like she always did under ambient lighting, her hand casually curled around a stemless wine glass. Zara was seated to her right, her voice already dominating the table, like a trumpet in a jazz band. Brash, booming, hard to ignore. Priya was on her left, with that smug little smirk she always wore, like life had confirmed to her she was always right. I sat next to Zara, mostly because it was the only seat left, and also because I learned long ago not to fight the seating. Arrangements at these dinners, my role was to smile and nod, maybe laugh in the right places. It was somewhere between the calamari and the second round of drinks when Priya leaned in and tilted her head toward me. Curiosity feigned in her eyes like she didn't already know the answer. She said, "How did you two meet?" It was a harmless question, one of those icebreakers you throw around when the conversation stalls. And it was the kind of question I was used to answering. Because the real story? It was a good one. Sweet, actually. But before I could open my mouth, Malia cut in. She smirked. Not a warm, loving smirk, but the kind people use right before they humiliate someone. "He basically begged me to date him," she said, laughing like it was some inside joke. Zara immediately burst out laughing. Priya grinned, already entertained. I stayed still, just watched her. Malia didn't stop there. "Look at him," she continued, gesturing toward me with her wine glass like I was part of the decor. "Desperate, average. Lucky I was bored," Zara let out another loud cackle and slapped the table. "Girl, stop," she said, but she didn't mean it. They never meant it. I forced a smile. Not because I thought it was funny, because that's what I'd trained myself to do in moments like this. Pretend, shrink, but Malia wasn't done. "Honestly," she said, setting her glass down, "I'm only still with him because I don't have time to train someone hotter." That got them howling. The entire table shook with their laughter, while I sat there, barely touching my drink, wondering, at what point in our marriage did this become okay? I stared down at my plate, but even the food seemed embarrassed to be part of this moment. I felt something in me coil, not explode, just coil, quietly, tightly. She didn't notice. Or maybe she didn't care. Then came the final blow, the one she knew would land. "Let's be real," Malia said, her voice dipping low with mock sincerity. "No one else wants him." The words sat on the table like a slap. Not loud, not physical, but unmistakable. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't quicken. I looked up at her, really looked, and saw the woman I married through a lens I hadn't used before. There was a time I would have chalked it up to her being playful, told myself she was just teasing, but not anymore. Not tonight. I reached for my glass. Calm, smooth. No theatrics. No warning. I tilted it, and the drink, cranberry and soda, her favorite, because it wouldn't stain her teeth, poured out in a clean stream. Right over her hair. The table went dead silent. The liquid soaked into her curls, ran down the side of her face, and dripped onto her blouse. Zara's jaw dropped. Priya gasped. Malia didn't move at first, just sat there, in disbelief, frozen, mid-life. I stood up, pulled a few folded bills from my wallet, placed them under the lip of my untouched plate, tucked my chair back in, with care. I didn't say a word. I didn't look back. I walked out, through the murmurs and gasps and clinking glasses of nearby diners who had definitely noticed the spectacle. I didn't stomp. I didn't slam the door. I didn't even hesitate. Outside, the air was cooler than I expected. Crisp, clean, untouched by her perfume or their noise. I walked past the valet, ignored the line of rideshare pickups, and kept moving toward the far end of the lot where I parked. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. There was no regret, no panic, just a strange, almost welcome clarity, a clean line, drawn. I wasn't angry. I was done pretending. Calculated the cost of separation, not just financial, but emotional, practical, even logistical. Every step mattered, not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted out with clarity, not chaos. This wasn't an escape. This was a process, a conscious, deliberate walk out of the fog I'd lived in for too long. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't angry. I was methodical. For every joint account, I found a path to individual ownership. For every shared responsibility, I listed how I'd divide it, or drop it. Her name came up again and again, tangled into mine, but I kept going. Untangling, unweaving, unlearning. That night, I slept in the den again. Same pullout, same position. Only this time, I slept deeper, no dreams, just rest. In the morning, her car was gone, not stolen, not dramatic, just missing. She'd left, maybe to Zara's, maybe to clear her head, maybe to regroup. But she didn't text, didn't call. I made eggs, ate in silence, the kind that doesn't weigh on you but fills you. I kept writing, kept listing, kept unraveling the life I had tied in knots for someone who never cared enough to even see them. There was no script for this, no handbook, just instincts, clean, sharp instincts that had finally been allowed to speak. That afternoon, a knock came again. 3, actually, soft, then harder, then the last, like she was debating leaving altogether. I didn't open it. Not out of pettiness. Out of protection. She had words, I knew it. She always did, twisting truths into maybes, weaving guilt into pleasantries. But I wasn't giving her the chance this time. Not until I was ready, not until I could hear her voice, without flinching. Not until I knew who I was, without her reflection distorting my image. I stared at the door for a long moment, hand on the knob. Then I stepped back, let the knock echo and die. And I picked up my pen. The notebook